Each episode of Education with an Edge is meant to create, cultivate, and inspire honest discussion about issues affecting youth. Hosted by author, artist, educator, advocate, and speaker, Jaquel Lane.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jaquel Lane, and I am your hostess with the mostest of Education with an Edge podcast, the podcast dedicated to all things youth because every child matters, and we wholeheartedly believe that here at Education with an Edge. And I am so very honored and excited to have Jamie Vollmer here with us today. And Jamie is a dear friend of mine, but she's also a very inspirational person that I look up to, honestly. While battling opioid addiction at the age of 20, Jamie became a young mother. As she continued to grow as an adult, so did her alcohol addiction. Now, 2+ years sober, there isn't a challenge too big for this woman. Meet Jamie Vollmer, an inspirational 28-year-old who is on a mission to make a difference and share her love for sobriety. Recently being crowned Mrs. Nebraska American has allowed her to spotlight her platform, Sober, Sexy, Strong. Her platform educates and encourages the sober, curious community while supporting those currently battling sobriety. Jamie recently married her husband, Taylor Vollmer. Hey, Taylor. She has an 8-year-old son, 1 cat, 2 dogs, and 4 horses. She works in the healthcare staffing field as a division manager for Marvel Medical Staffing, and her hobbies include riding horses, traveling, spending time with her wonderful family, and self-development experiences. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
We've been trying to schedule this for a really long time, and I also have to do a shout out, congratulations and happy Mother's Day. Mother's Day is tomorrow. So,
Thank you.
So extra special to have you here. And your little guy is so cute. And I loved seeing you as a family. We'll talk about that more. But when you were crowned Mrs. Nebraska American, that was just awesome.
Words can't describe how great it was.
He was so excited. So, since this is a podcast that's dedicated to youth, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and upbringing?
Absolutely. So how I would describe it is I was raised in a little bit of a broken family atmosphere. My parents were divorced when I was 3 years old, and they really didn't get along. Their relationship was very combative, never agreed. I just remember it always being pretty negative to be around. My mom was an aggressive alcoholic, and my dad was a successful and motivated, active military man. Personalities were opposite, obviously. So my mom had custody of me, and I spent every other weekend and Tuesday with my dad growing up. But I've always had a love for animals. So animals were a big part, really kept my sanity, and was something I enjoyed. I started riding when I was age 5 and actually started to take lessons when I was age 7 and got more serious into riding horses. So they really turned into my life. Being able to go to the barn and have that horse community and those horse relationships or horse people relationships was able to provide me with an atmosphere that I didn't have in my home life. So to me, those relationships and that upbringing was really invaluable to me and still is. My horse community is amazing and my biggest supporters. As I hit high school, I got a little older, right? And I struggled with my mom's addiction. And I quickly actually picked up on her bad habits. She was smoking cigarettes and drinking, so I started smoking cigarettes and drinking. So throughout high school, I actually struggled with a hidden drug and alcohol addiction that none of my family knew about. After an eye-opening experience my senior year, and with some help and be able to get back on track, I was able to graduate early like I had planned and kind of get things back on track.
That's awesome. And I appreciate so much you sharing that about, we see that a lot in kids from divorced families, or if you've had a parent that's passed away. My dad died when I was 14. That you tend to seek outside influences or things to make you feel better to deal with that. Because when you're a little person, those are big feelings that you don't know how to deal with, And so, which is why it's so awesome that you're willing to share your story with our young people today.
Yeah.
Who was a mentor in your life growing up, and how did they inspire you?
You know what? So horses was a big part of my life. And we had someone move in next door to us, next to my mom and I's house. And her name was Lisa. She was one of my first horse trainers, and she became basically everything to me and a second mom to me. She had 3 kids and a husband. I think she had 4 dogs, maybe 7 horses, something crazy.
I love that.
Quite the lifestyle that I live now.
Yes.
And she just took me under her wing. I originally started nannying for her, and then we realized that we both had a hobby and love for horses, and I think that she might have felt for me a little bit with my home life, so just took me under her wing. I traveled with them as a nanny, and then she started to provide me with horse opportunities and basically funding me to ride for years. She was always calm, cool, collected, kind. I mean, really, it was the polar opposite of what I had when I would go home, so it was such a safe haven, and she just has made such an impression on my life that to this day, I still try to be like her. So Lisa, if you're listening, I love you and I miss you.
Oh, that's awesome. And such honestly, a guardian angel at a time when, yes. I really truly do believe that a higher power puts people in our lives for a reason.
Yes.
When we need it the most. And so that's a beautiful tribute to her.
And I didn't know, at the time how valuable she was going to be 10, 15 years later. So now looking back, and kind of prepping for this and really kind of digging deep, I've realized how big of an influence that she's been. So yes, appreciate her a lot.
That's awesome. So you recently competed for the title of Mrs. Nebraska, and you won Mrs. Nebraskan. Congratulations. Seriously. I was there, and I could not have been more happy for you, sweetheart. And that was just such an awesome moment. But even more remarkable than that amazing accomplishment, you have a platform that means such a great deal to you. And I think that was one of the things in my heart when I was watching you get crowned, that I just thought, this young woman is going to take this and run with it, because she has something to say and something to share, and it's going to touch so many people's lives, not just women's lives. It's going to touch so many people's lives that have dealt with the things that you've dealt with. And so can you tell us a little bit more about your platform and why it means so much to you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. The whole pageant experience was amazing and not something I expected by any means. So yes, you are 100% right. Now that I have been granted this wonderful opportunity in my road to nationals, I am going to take advantage of it, and I'm going to, use it to its full strength. So my platform is called Sober, Sexy, Strong. It's designed to educate and encourage the sober, curious community while supporting those currently battling sobriety. Sober curious, most people haven't heard that phrase before. It's basically individuals that may think anytime that they're around alcohol that they have some sort of an opinion on themselves. Am I drinking too much? Well, maybe I'd want to quit. Anyone that is curious about sobriety would fall in that category. So my goal is for everyone, not just women, to see sobriety as something that is sexy and something that represents strength. I really hope to encourage everyone to find their own definition of sexy. There's, you've got the Urban Dictionary, that definition of sexy, and that's not real life these days. So everyone needs to find their own definition of sexy. Mine is being confident and comfortable in my own skin.
I love that.
So yes, and I really hope to encourage everyone to be the strongest version of themselves every single day. You're putting 100% into every step that you take, every moment that you have, because you never know when you're not going to have one. So really every single day trying to be the strongest person and get better and push yourself. That's what the platform's all about. Not just sobriety, but in order to find sobriety, you have to feel comfortable with yourself and you have to be strong, because it's no easy feat. So I'm hoping to raise awareness, and that's my mission.
I think, honestly, I can't think of a more, and I've talked with you on several occasions about this. I am sober, and I had my very last drink in 2016. But before that, I'd gone through bouts of where I just absolutely wouldn't drink at all. And then I would have an event like Memorial Day or something, and I'd, drink and I just never, and we've talked about this, it never made me feel, personally, just something about alcohol just doesn't do well in my body. It just always made me feel sick, or, it really would, I felt mess with my system. And so you and I have talked about that especially in social situations and things like that, the ability to be able to say no and not have to necessarily explain yourself, you know, and if people ask to kind of have, you know, your line to say or whatever. Yep. But at the same time, I love what you say about being, you know, that sexy means being confident and comfortable in your own skin, because there have been tons of events that I've been at and I'm like, nope, I'll just have a Diet Coke, or nope, I'll just have a seltzer water or whatever, you know, knowing that to me, I'm going to feel a lot better the next morning and I've got to adhere to my goals. And I know that that's like how you are too. So.
Absolutely.
So many young people, you know, are going through obstacles right now in one way or another. And I was just listening to, you know, I don't think that there's a better time for your platform and for your mission, Jamie, because we're just coming out, and we're not there yet. But we have recently gone through a lot of trauma throughout our world with COVID-19. And, you know, the statistics are there that especially addiction and, you know, alcohol dependency on drugs is risen substantially, because what were we supposed to do when we were locked up in our house and suffering from, you know, depression or mental health issues, that we know that was on the rise. And so many young people have seen parents or loved ones, you know, go through that. And maybe now more than ever, you know, maybe dad's drinking more than he ever has, or mom's drinking more or using more than they ever have, which is so devastating. But whatever obstacles young people are going through right now, you know, I always like to have people on the show because someone would look at you. I mean, you're so put together. You're so beautiful. You have a wonderful family, beautiful son. She's got a complete farm. Like I mean, totally do. I love it. I love your love for animals. But somebody would look at you and say, you know, that she's never gone, you know, I bet it was just like easy street for her and she's never gone through anything. And I think it's so important because there might be a young person out there that's suffering right now that doesn't see their way to the other side. So what is, you know, one obstacle that you faced in your life that you've overcome and that you're proud of overcoming?
You know, you're right. Something that I struggle with every single day is people kind of look at my life and they're like, oh, you have the fairy tale life, right? And nobody, I guess people outside of my circle and my support system, they don't quite understand what I've gone through, you know? So the biggest obstacle that I've overcome, and it's not something that I've actually overcome yet. It's not something I'm ever going to overcome, and I'm going to bring it back to my addiction. I have an addictive personality. So from a young age, I've always battled addiction. In high school, I battled a drug and alcohol addiction, was blessed with my son, and he was able to pull me out of that. I mean, thank God. And as I continued to be a young mother, I found myself addicted to alcohol again, probably way worse than anything I experienced in high school. So really, my addiction is something that I'm constantly overcoming and constantly battling. I'd like to say that I've overcome it, but that's not something realistic to say. It's not something you can actually overcome. It's something you continue to work on. But really how I'm trying to overcome it is I continue to push myself by educating myself about addiction. I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly researching. I'm constantly trialing, erroring in my life what works for me. And I'm listening to my body. And really, when I'm feeling those tendencies or I feel that addictive personality pop up, I try to really break it down. You know, why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? Where did I put myself? How can I fix this? And educating myself, but also on a level where there's tons of books and tons of research out there that can teach you about your mind. Big thing there is your unconscious mind. So that is actually what controls your addictions, your feelings. That's where everything starts, is your unconscious mind. So trying to teach that unconscious mind has been my mission. And I'd like to say that I've gotten pretty good at it now, because my addiction isn't something that's top of mind. It rarely kind of rears its head and then I kind of sort through it. But teaching the unconscious mind can be hard, but it can be done with repetition. So I highly suggest, if you're trying to overcome something, trying to do some research on how you can teach your unconscious mind to overcome that. Another thing that I remind myself of, and I constantly try to surround myself with the right people. Healthy people in your life that are going to have your back, that are going to encourage you. But not only that, they hold you accountable. You know, Jaquel, I shared with you my sobriety and my story. And the minute I said that to you, I was not going back, because I respect you so much. You know, same thing with my husband. I told him, hey, I'm going sober. This is happening. I will never look back, because they're holding me accountable. And telling the people that you have the utmost respect for is what's going to hold you accountable most. If you tell Joe Schmo next to you, you know, on the subway, that's not going to hold stock in, if you tell your dad. So really surrounding yourself with the right people, and then also educating yourself on that. How to overcome it will allow you to kind of teach that unconscious mind and put you on the right track.
I love what you said. And also I'm so honored and humbled because I love you so much. And
I
it
love
was
you.
super cool for you to share that with me, because I was like, well, I am too. And, so sometimes,
And I didn't know that.
right.
I thought that was so neat.
Right. So sometimes you end up, talking to people and you might not even know their journey or their story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's so important to have the right people in your life. But also, I like what you said about an addictive personality, because I find that, and yes, there is a percentage of people that will never be addicted to anything. You know what I mean? And they're just very like balanced, and that's great. And that's the gift that they were given. But like, for someone like me, for instance, I can do that with shopping. When the Amazon boxes start piling up, man, you got to dial it back. Or I can do that with, certain people can do that with food, with different things. It doesn't just have to be alcohol and drugs. And unfortunately, for a lot of kids, I think that it shows up in a lot of different ways. I think that kids can become addicted to electronics. I was just
me too.
and I know you've got a young son, and it's like, I think that sometimes, get out in the fresh air, and having a connection that you love, like you did with animals, or something that's out in nature outside, is so very important. Or like, I know your little brother and your son go work out with your dad, with their grandpa, and it's like, it's super cool, just to do anything to get kind of away from that once you feel that addictive kind of personality kicking in. And so that's such great advice, because I think that a lot of people struggle in different areas. So one of the things I like to do here is that, kids sometimes, and I remember really suffering from this, because everybody would be like, even as a junior or a sophomore in high school, I'd be like, so what are you going to do? Like, I'm like 17.
Loaded question.
Like, what?
I'm going to come to school.
I'm going to come to school. That's what I'm going to do. But when you are like a goal-oriented person, I think it's really important for young people to share and to understand that there's lots of different career paths, and there's lots of different life paths. And so you, for instance, have a career that you absolutely love, and this young woman is a rock star at it, and she's inspired and encouraged a lot of other people on her team. And so can you tell us a little bit about your career and your career path, and then what you love so much about your job?
Oh, absolutely. So just to kind of to start, I'm in the travel healthcare staffing world. So I've been in it for about 6 years now. What we do is we staff healthcare professionals that are traveling, that would like to be temporary and help hospitals that are in temporary need. So during COVID, there was tons of traveling ICU RN positions, right? Because there was a need there. So it's not just nursing. We also staff allied health and therapy. I'm actually the division manager for our therapy and our new opening up home health division at Marvel Medical Staffing. I love where I work. I could tell you all day long. We could talk for hours about how much I love Marvel Medical. Not only Marvel, but I love the team that I work with. I have a great group of men and women, and they are driven. They inspire me every day, and they hold me accountable, which is phenomenal. So shout out to my Marvel Medical Therapy Division team. But really, our internal motto at Marvel is humble, driven, smart. So we're looking to hire and work with people that are humble, driven, and smart. And for our external employees and our travel staff, we're really looking to make a difference in the industry and help the healthcare industry, alongside providing transparency for the traveler. When you're traveling, there's going to be quite a few things that you can't control, right? In really, when we're helping these people, they're going to have some doubts and some worries, and we're there for them. And how we set ourselves apart at Marvel is transparency for the traveler. Why I love my job, back to that, is, we really focus on the culture in the office, so it doesn't feel like work. And we've got such a great work-life balance that they're really teaching me that, I can be in this industry for a long time. Even though it's high stress, finding that work-life balance is really important, and it allows you to have longevity in your career. There's so many people that go into sales or recruiting, and they bust their tail for 5, 6, 7 years, and then they move to something else because they're burnt. And so the idea is to find that happy medium so you can have a lifelong career versus stints in different careers and having to change. So I hope to continue to grow through our leadership programs at Marvel, and I'm really excited for their support and really want to make a difference in the healthcare industry.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do for supporting our healthcare industry and especially supporting our nurses after this year. I can't tell you thank you enough. Thank you to all of your nurses, and thank you to your staff and to your team, because they're the true heroes this year for sure.
Happy Nurses Week.
Yes, I was going to say.
It's Nurses Week. Happy Nurses Week, everyone.
Yeah, I love that. You know, and we've touched a little bit on this during the show, but you have an exceptional and precious relationship with animals, but especially horses, and you're very active in equestrian. Can you tell us more about your passion for this sport and how it enriches your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So they've been in my life forever. And in my childhood, they provided that support when I needed it, right? And as I continued to grow, I had my son, and I had a couple years that I was out of horses because I really had to focus on being a young mom struggling with addiction, right? And when I was able to hop back into having horses, my life got back on track. And now my husband and I own an acreage where it's called JT Thoroughbreds, and we work with thoroughbreds off the track. Thoroughbreds are a breed of horses, and the horses that you see running the Kentucky Derby, that's them. So we work with thoroughbreds off the track. I have quite a few connections locally and throughout the country, and we bring them in. We let them rest for a couple of months, and then basically what I do is work with them, see what they want to do, and help them find their next career. There's so many racehorses that really need help kind of finding their next career. So that's what we provide, and they also provide a little bit of encouragement, I guess. They're constantly challenging me and teaching me. Each horse is going to be different, and they can't talk to you. So I almost have to just figure out their encrypted way of life and figure out what they need and want just based on their body language and their cues. So it really has allowed me to kind of pick up on my empathy side because I have to read horses and animals without words. So kind of transitioning that over to people also is something that's been helpful.
I think that's so beautiful. And I'm from Western Nebraska, and we had horses growing up at the ranch and things. And I think horses are the most kind of therapeutic animals in a way, because I think they're very intuitive to how you're feeling. There's been a lot of research done with horses and how they can help actually children with autism, or actually children that have gone through any kind of trauma. And so I think that that's beautiful that you're giving them a second chance at life themselves, because I know that sometimes, there's other options, unfortunately. And so that's awesome that you're kind of a safe haven for them.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
A fun fact with that is horses and why they can connect with children that are going through some sort of therapy or any human is that they have the ability that their heartbeat syncs with yours. So that is why whenever you're around horses, and they say that horses can sense your anxiety, it's because they try to sync up their heartbeats. So in the wild, horses sync their heartbeats up together so that they can kind of communicate that way. There's a lot more info if you want to get in depth to it. But on the surface, they're trying to connect their heartbeat to you. And so when you're nervous, they get nervous because they are matching that, right? And when autistic children are around them, their heartbeat, they're trying to sync them, and they're able to actually pull their heartbeat into theirs and calm them down. So neat little fun fact for you.
That's super neat. No, that's really, really neat. If there was one piece of advice that you would give a young person going through a difficult time right now, what would it be?
Oh gosh, I preach this to absolutely every human that I meet, is to never give up, and never lose sight of your goals. I mean, never allow yourself to make an excuse that, I can't hit that goal, because believe me, I used to say that. And since sobriety, I have hit every goal that I've had since I was 4 years old. And man, I'm like, God, I got to come up with some new goals. I've always wanted to have a farm, always wanted to be married to an amazing husband, wanted to have an awesome career, wanted to be financially free, just all of those things I never thought I would have. And now I have them. So never give up, never lose sight of your dreams, and always keep pushing.
I love that piece of advice too, because oftentimes we can allow the negative self-talk in our heads talk us out of it, or that we don't deserve it or whatever. And so that's so very prevalent and important that you said, just never give up and never lose sight of your goals, never lose trust in yourself, basically.
Yep.
Awesome. What is one favorite motto or quote that you live by?
kind of goes off what I just said, but you can do anything you set your mind to. And again, I would never preach anything that I haven't been able or I couldn't do myself. So whenever I say anything, it's because I've experienced it, I believe it, and I can do it too, so can you. So you can do anything you set your mind to. You are your biggest cheerleader and you can be your biggest critic. So to keep in mind that you're using those two resources of yourself in the correct manner. So pushing yourself forward and being your biggest cheerleader, but also being able to reflect and make sure that you're improving in some of the weaker spots. But you control your life. You are the only person that will hold yourself back. There are certain things you'll have to overcome and certain barriers that you'll have to climb over, but really that barrier is standing in front of you and you can climb it. So get to the other side and get it done.
I love that. Listen to that. Listen to that. If you don't listen to one other thing, it's so very important. And speaking of goals, and I know this is a loaded question, but what are some of your goals that you have for 2021, my dear?
Oh gosh. So 2021, it has been, you can't really control life right now. I've just given up on that. So what I'm just really focusing on is Mrs. American, heading to the pageant in November for 10 days and having the opportunity. I never thought that I'd be going to the Mrs. American pageant. I mean, never in my life did I think I'd be in a pageant, nor did I think I would get to nationals. So I'm ramping up. I'm ready to go. I'm going to go after this, kind of getting the crown this time was, I was just trying to raise awareness and do my thing, and I didn't care what the outcome was. And when that outcome was given to me and that opportunity was presented and that door was opened, I don't do anything halfway. No. So I'm going to give 100%, and I'm really hoping to place in the top 15 there. If anything, just trying to raise awareness for my platform. Goal is to help one person. As long as I help one person, I'm happy. And along that, I'm writing a book about my journey, so hopefully I'll finish that up this year. Got a lot going on, so things kind of have been a little slowed down and prioritized. And since we hadn't been able to travel in 2020, I really want to get my family experiencing things that we've never experienced. We don't have a very long life, and so I just want to make sure that we're living it to the fullest.
I love that. Those are some of the greatest goals that I've heard this year, and I no doubt that you're going to make everyone proud in everything and every endeavor that you're going after. Honestly,
thank you.
We're very, very proud of you. And on that, since our viewers will want to follow your journey and all the amazing things that you're doing in our community and for individuals who are suffering from addiction, where can we find you on social media? Where can we find your website? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on social media, Facebook for sure. My page is Sober, Sexy, Strong Mrs. Nebraska American. You can follow my journey there. I'm constantly posting tips, tricks that are going to be really revolved around sobriety, sex, finding your sexy, and finding your strong. Also got some kind of nutrition and physical fitness tips in there as well, just because that's really a way of life, really, really getting a healthy way of life there. I'll be honest, Instagram is hard, but I'm on Instagram. I'm working on it. I'm on week 3 of learning it. You ask someone else and they're like, oh, Instagram's so easy. But I'm on there, Sober, Sexy, Strong. But bear with me if you see something crazy or like I'm videoing something random. It's because I just don't know how to use it. So
you're fine. You've got a lot. We're going to be able to find you regardless. And I think that I speak for everyone in saying we're so very proud of you. We're so very happy for you, and not just everything that you're accomplished, but you're somebody that's helping other people, and that's an inspiration to all of us. So
you're such an inspiration.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you all for being with us here today. Once again, this is Jaquel Lane, your hostess of Education with an Edge. And we just want to give a shout out at the end of each program. If you are someone that's suffering, be it a youth or be it an adult, during this time, we just encourage you to reach out. We're great partners with Boys Town, the suicide hotline, or we have resources here that we can be made available to you in terms of mental health and get you the help that you need. But you're definitely not out there suffering alone. We need your love, we need your light, and we need you to keep fighting. So with that being said, we're so very grateful that you could join us today, and we're signing off on Education with an Edge. Until next time.
If you have a question or just want to learn more, go to jaquellane.com. Thanks for listening to Education with an Edge,
a Huda Media production.